Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jazz Borganzo, and this is what's next. I talked about the other day when I did a video regarding Ron DeSantis in Florida during CPAC. That it was one or two videos. The next video was going to be the triumphant return of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. But I decided to go in a different direction. Uh, there have been a number of videos have talked about Donald Trump and his speech regarding CPAC. I watched the entire thing yesterday, all 90 minutes. And I'll tell you right now, I posted that you got a guy who stands up there and does a speech for 90 minutes with a couple of breaks here and there, but you barely have President Dementia who can barely do 90 seconds. That's pretty much the gist. And Donald Trump touched on a myriad of issues. But there was one issue particularly that, for me, in my opinion, stood out only because of, from what we've seen of Congress as of late in regarding the Equality Act. Now, I did a separate video regarding the Equality Act and regarding the dangers regarding Pandora's box. You know, it's dangerous. A dangerous Pandora's box if opened. But I'm going to go back and not so much touch on the Equality Act, but a number of issues that are inside the Equality Act that a lot of you might have missed. We're going to start off with President Donald Trump at CPAC over the weekend in regarding to one particular subject. Let's take a look.
Countries and a massive loss for the United States and our great citizens. Joe Biden and the Democrats are even pushing policies that would destroy women's sports. A lot of new records are being broken in women's sports. Hate to say that, ladies, but got a lot of new records. They're being shattered. You know, for years, the weightlifting, every ounce is like a big deal for many years. All of a sudden, somebody comes along and beats it by 100 pounds. Boom, boom. Now, young girls and women are incensed that they are now being forced to compete against those who are biological males. It's not good for women. It's not good for women's sports, which worked so long and so hard to get to where they are. The records that stood for years, even decades, are now being smashed with ease. Smashed. If this is not changed, women's sports, as we know it, will die. They'll end. It'll end. What coach, if I'm a coach, you know, I want to be a great coach. What coach, as an example, wants to recruit a young woman to compete if her record can easily be broken by somebody who was born a man? Not too many of those coaches around, right? They are around. They won't be around long because they're going to have a big problem when their record is, we're 0-16, but we're getting better. No, I think it's crazy. I think it's just crazy what's happening. We must protect the integrity of women's sports. So important. Have to.
You just heard Donald Trump speak in regards to the protection of women's sports. And of course, the Equality Act is not really the Equality Act, it's the Inequality Act. Let's be realistic here. It's a trash of a bill. It's a trash of a bill. It destroys women's sports. Basically, it's destructive to Title IX, which was created to protect women's sports. It's destructive to the Civil Rights Act in '64. It's destructive to Christians, to Catholics, to Jews, to Muslims. Who are very protective about their faith, who basically says, okay, here are men, here are women, there is no in between, and that's the end of it. But no, this bill basically wipes all that away, puts everybody on a so-called even playing field that women are no longer, special. Men are no longer special. They're equal. There's nothing distinct about them, even though in reality, science, faith, biology, genetics, you know, facts tend to say otherwise. And the reason why I brought this particular part up in Donald Trump's speech is because now I'm going to uh, how in relation into other things. And the reason why I say that is because I'm going to bring up a literally, this is Rachel Dolezal. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, or for those of you who basically just put it so deep in the memory hole that it became insignificant, well, yeah, she is. Rachel Dolezal pretended to be black to get a scholarship. She pretended to be black to improve her standings because her standings as someone who was born white weren't quite up to snuff. She, of two white parents, it wasn't good enough. According to her, when this story broke 3, 4 years ago, there was something in me uh, that just felt black. Excuse me. Really. How's subject number 2? This is Sean King. Sean, I'm really white, King, born of parents who were both white. But of course, I don't know if he still doesn't recognize them to this day. I know he's made disparaging remarks against his own parents. Um, but for some unknown reason, he felt that it was better off being black than actually respecting your own parents who happen to be white. But yet, what do he and Rachel Dolezal have in common is that the media accepted it. Instead of the media calling it out for the falsity that is, for the untruth that it is, for basically the lie that it is. Neither one of them are black. Neither one of them have any genetic markers that would even suggest that they come from black ancestry. But just call yourself whatever, and it shall be done. This is what the Equality Act is. Call yourself whatever. There was um, there was a little segment regarding Tucker Carlson that I watched earlier this morning, and he had Candace Owens on, and Candace Owens, who basically said that LeBron James, as talented, as gifted, athletically as he is, back in high school, if he would have suggested, now this is fast forward now, if this were LeBron James of 2021 saying, hey, you know what? I'm really a woman. Would the high school say no? No, I think the high school probably would have bent over backwards and said, oh, you're so great. Yeah, but I like to participate in women's sports. I don't know about that. Dude, you're really good. But I feel like a woman. So I'm going to compete against women. I'm going to play on the women's team, and I'm going to compete against other women in basketball and literally destroy them. Excuse me. Literally wipe the floor up with them. But that will be okay in 2021 because it's not based off of science, based off of faith, based off of genetics, based off of biology. It's all in how you feel because according to the left, feelings don't care about your facts. Unlike those of us who think with common sense and critical thinking, facts don't give a damn about your feelings. Now, let me swing over to this. This is the article. Well, not the article, but I'm saying this is Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola, who got into a pickle when leaked information came out regarding to be less white, uh, a doctrine that a whistleblower, internal whistleblower, leaked screenshots of diversity training materials that encourage staff to be less white. And I'm reading that's right off the Newsweek article. This was this was actually this was last week, but it ties into everything that I've just spoken. On that Friday, Carolyn Boronsenko, an activist who supports banning critical race theory, and rightly so, because no one race is better than the other. Not one. Black is not better than white. White is not better than black. Hispanic is not better than Asian. Asian is not better than Hispanic. No race or ethnicity is better than the other. Period. Shared images from an internal whistleblower of the company's online racism training. The slides include tips to learners on how to be, quote, less white, arrogant, certain, defensive, ignorant, and more humble. Now, of course, a Coke spokesperson confirmed that the course is part of a learning plan to help build inclusive workplace. But also noted the video circulating on social media from publicly available LinkedIn learning series. Turns out that LinkedIn has disavowed, not disavowed, basically has stopped all this nonsense. LinkedIn's gotten roasted as well, so LinkedIn has backed off of this and they're not a part of this. They pull themselves out. It's not a focus of our company's curriculum. Quote, our Better Together global learning curriculum is part of a learning plan to help build an inclusive workplace, a spokesman said in a statement. Now, of course, it turns out that, that of course, as anybody who would read this with actually who thinks critically, who actually thinks with common sense, would believe this is absolute garbage. And it is. It's trash. But then again, more corporate shills bending over to virtue signaling, to bending over and kissing the ring that is virtue signaling. Forced inclusion, forced diversity, pretty much forced nonsense. And sadly, that are the times that we are living in right now. Now, from everything that I understand, Coke has kind of disavowed itself, pulling back from this, because, of course, this is all based off the really ignorant, and I mean ignorant, book by Robin DiAngelo, White Fragility, which is, put it this way, I don't believe in book burning, but this will be one that I would really consider throwing some gasoline on and lighting it up. But this is Mr. Potato Head. This is Mr. Potato Head. Now, of course, Mr. Potato Head is extremely well known the world over. You've had generations grow up with Mr. Potato Head. Gen X grew up with Mr. Potato Head. Of course, Mr. Potato Head got an infusion of popularity once the Toy Story movies broke out and made all classic, and not just Mr. Potato Head, but a number of classic toys brought back into relevance. Fortunately, Hasbro, just like Coke, decided to go down that diversity train, the virtue signaling train, hop aboard, and they are getting roasted because of it. So much so that Hasbro pulled back because initially Hasbro said, hey, you know what? We're going to make Mr. Potato Head no longer Mr. Potato Head because Mr. and Mrs. they're the same. We're just going to call him Potato Head. Well, Hasbro got roasted because of it, and Hasbro pulled back. Now, according to them, and of course I did that on a subsequent video, Mr. Potato Head was never going to really go away. You know, it was just something that they were trying. Okay, yeah. So I say all these things, I tie all these things in together because they're all relevant to each other. Sadly, we live in a society where you have politics, the media, of course, social media, Hollywood, or as I like to call Hollywoke. Everything is relative. Everything is relatable. There is no distinct, there are no absolutes anymore. There are no absolute truths anymore. You know, men are no longer men, women are no longer women. You can be black, you can be white, you can be Asian, you can be Hispanic. You can pick, you know, pick them like a deck of cards. Pick a card, any card. It's sad and pathetic, the society that we are living in. When you've got high school girls who can't even compete for scholarships against their own peers for the risk of going up against someone who just the other day was a dude and now decided to become a chick and enter into that competition. Where you have girls who are filing lawsuits to protect women's sports, to protect Title IX, which the Equality Act will destroy, just as the president said. The Equality Act will destroy sports, will destroy women's sports. And it's a severe problem. Severe problem. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is what's next. And if you want to see more videos just like this, please leave a comment below. Share it, like it, hit that subscription button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.